So that's going to depend on who wins the elections. The two candidates have palpably different and contrasting views of the world and on major issues across the landscape. And so that's going to significantly depend on who wins the election. But on the broader perspective, Africa has been very peripheral within the larger US dynamic. One of the ways in which Africa has come up is when it comes to the fight against terrorism, conflicts and security situations on the continent. But both US presidents, irrespective of who wins, you'd expect that there would be a lot of cooperation with African countries, especially in the Sahel region, in countries like Niger, Kenya, Somalia. There will be military agreements in order to curb the effect of Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and other terrorist organizations in the country. So if we have a Donald Trump presidency or a Donald Trump winning this election, what it's going to mean is that America is going to return back to its isolationism. America is going to turn back to nativism. America is going to take a backward seat when it comes to global affairs. They'll be less interested in internationalism, less interested in international cooperation, less interested in multiculturalism. Donald Trump has signaled and has said that he is going to pull the United States out of the Paris Climate Accord, which is one of the major policies or the major agreements that seek to address greenhouse effects or the debilitating effects of climate change on the world platform. So that's one. For Kamala Harris, Joe Biden took America back to the climate change agreement. The Democrats do believe that human actions have a very precipitous effect on climate change and the denigration of the global climate system. So you'd see Kamala Harris being more interested in making commitments to climate change. Harris' presidency is going to be more internationalist in its perspective. It's going to be more multicultural. They'll be more interested in pursuing international cooperation agreements. And so that would be how different that would be if Kamala Harris wins. When you look at NATO, for instance, which has been quite effective or quite important to addressing certain conflicts, or at least in terms of America teaming up with its European allies in addressing certain international conflict situations, Donald Trump has said that he's less interested in teaming up with NATO to pursue some of these policies or ideals. We saw a Trump presidency, we saw a Biden presidency in which Kamala was the vice president, where they were committed to NATO and their allies. They have said time and again that America would continue to remain committed to its allies. And so you'd expect that there will be better cooperation with Europe when Kamala wins. When you look at Donald Trump, for instance, he's also, it was under his presidency, for instance, that Roe versus Wade was repealed, and that made abortions illegal in the United States. Now, Trump is very committed to that, and so we would expect that if he wins, any agreements or any international deals that have abortion or family planning or such reproductive health issues tied to them, you'll be sure that he would not be interested in pursuing those trade agreements. Okay. On the other hand, we have a Kamala Harris presidency, which is very much interested in promoting sexual reproductive rights, which is very much interested in promoting freedoms or sexual rights for females, very much interested in providing fertility care or family planning opportunities for children, for women. And so when you look at an organization like the UNFPA or other UN bodies, which are interested in promoting such causes, a Harris administration will be more interested in supporting such agreements, right? So we've seen the UNFPA get less funding when Trump or most Republicans are in power. When Donald Trump was president, he never visited the continent, but we do know that he had an agreement that sought to promote business or trade deals in Africa. Under the Democrats, we had the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, which gave reduced tariffs to give African businesses the opportunity to enter the US market. Kamala Harris has signaled that she's going to continue such policies or going to continue such trade deals. Africa needs to champion its own policies. It needs to champion its own initiatives in a way that will make it beneficial. It needs to look forward to more trade and not aid as far as its relationship with the West or with the United States is concerned. Of course, I mean, every country looks out for its national interest. So the US's national interest definitely overrides all other interests. And I mean, I can understand to the extent that the US has certain foreign policy goals and certain foreign policy ideals, really, it kind of transfers from administration to administration. So it may not differ in a major way. However, it's not a zero-sum game. I wouldn't put a carte blanche on that and say that there are no effects. Elections have consequences, and they do have consequences even when it comes to foreign policy, right? So Donald Trump has said that he's going to limit American support for the Ukraine war. He has said he's going to give Israel, the full right to do whatever they think they can to protect themselves. Donald Trump himself has referred to Africa as a shithole. So that gives you an idea about how he views the continent in terms of his relationship with the continent, right? So I do think elections have consequences, and they do have consequences on the foreign policy front. Kamala Harris is a prosecutor. She's a human rights defender. And so you can be sure that when she wins the presidency, she's probably likely to promote same-sex marriage or LGBTQ ideals, all right? And they may tie it to certain trade deals or trade policies. So I don't think they don't matter. I think they do matter to the extent that we live in a global world. We live in an interconnected world. And so what happens in one part of the country definitely has an effect on the other part of the continent. We do have to relate to other countries from a business, agriculture, health perspective. So I think these things matter. The policies that they have, their attitude towards the continent, opportunities that are available to peasant farmers here in Africa, to textile manufacturers, to trade and business people, the kind of deals that we have, the support or the negotiations that we have in terms of promoting greenhouse or green energy policies on the continent. All of this is going to be quite significant, in terms of how the US presidency affects us over here. So I do think they do have consequences in the matter. It's important for Africa itself to prepare and make itself ready to negotiate and to deal with the administration, no matter who wins. Africa is growing. It's becoming a very important region for the world. Africa is built, I believe, to become one of the most populous regions in a couple of years to come. I forgot exactly which year, but in the not too far future. And so it's a very important region for the world. We've seen China, for instance, make a lot of inroads in the country. Africa has become one of the largest trade partners for China, if not the largest. And so it's very important that we as a continent ourselves devise our own programs and devise our own initiatives to see how best we can negotiate or relate with the United States, irrespective of who wins.